So an exercise like this is a really good way to get the athlete exposed to high degrees of force while maintaining that load through the biceps femoris long head or the lateral hamstrings. So this is my preference in terms of increasing the load for a hamstring rehab exercise. How did you find that, Jackson? Very challenging? Okay, great. I'll get you to take those bands off your feet and we'll get you to stand up. Another really common exercise, so you can stay there. Another really common exercise that we get athletes doing when rehabbing a hamstring exercise, and one that has been shown to place large amounts of load through the lateral hamstrings based on the work by Matthew Bourne, is the RDL. So you're familiar with an RDL, Jackson? Okay. So typically I get the exercise completed with soft knees, so knees aren't fully locked, and the athlete going through a nice comfortable range of motion outside of pain. This is something I'll get athletes doing early in the rehab process, just with a broomstick, but I'll be adding extra resistance fairly promptly if the athlete can tolerate that load. So I'll get you to demonstrate an RDL for me, Jackson. Get yourself set up. Good. Beautiful. So you get the athlete into a standing position to start with, and then they're going to come down, taking the bar along the angles of the thigh with a fairly straight back. So Jackson has good range of motion here. If we were going to be critical of Jackson's technique in any way, he's almost too extended through his lumbar spine. That could potentially become an issue with lower back pain as he starts to complete the exercise with heavier weights. So what I'll get you to do, Jackson, just try and maintain a straighter lumbar spine without going into so much curve. Okay, that was better. As the athlete starts to improve, we can start to change the speed to which they do the exercise. In general, we want to move towards faster concentric phases, so generating high degrees of rate of force development. So I'll get you to come down nice and smoothly like you did just a second ago, Jackson, but then I'd like you to come up, basically snap up. So I want you to come up with a little bit of speed. So nice and slow on the way down, and then we'll get the athletes to pop up. So they're starting to generate a little bit more of that explosive force. Good. So slowly on the way down. Good. And then generating that explosive force on the way up. You can rest now. So RDLs are one of the key exercises that load that biceps femoris long head to a larger degree than some of those hip dominant movements. As we move through the rehab process, we need to consider some of the exercises that have some of the best research available. So I don't think you can have a hamstring presentation without discussing the role of Nordics. Nordics are one of those exercises that have been shown to prevent the rates of hamstring injuries as well as limiting recurrence rates. And they are an exercise that I often do give to my sprinters, but there's a few little considerations that we do see in sprinters that we might not see in some of your field-based sports. So we'll just move this a little bit forwards so Jackson doesn't fall on it. We've got a Nordic pad here set up. So I'll get you in here, Jackson. This can go underneath your knees. So put it underneath your knees, yep. So Nordics are one of these exercises that there's a lot of controversy about. Should we be completing them? They're not a particularly functional exercise, but does that technically matter if they're preventing hamstring injuries? So when Jackson's going to complete this Nordic in a second, what I would like you to do is take notice of where exactly you feel yourself working, and we'll look at making a few little changes to try and make this a little bit more effective. So in terms of the technique, arms across your chest, I'd like you to have an ever so slight little forward bend in your trunk. So just bend a little bit. So not from your hips. I just want your trunk. Yep, there we go. So a slight little bend through the trunk, and I want you to lower yourself down smoothly. Very nice, and stopping. So perfect. So Jackson is quite good at a Nordic. He can control the deceleration the whole way through, and I feel like you could almost start to come back up if you wanted to.
I'll give it a go.
So I don't need you to.
Okay.
Nordics are an exercise that are supposed to be super maximal, so they should be heavy enough that you can't complete a concentric phase. Jackson is close enough that he almost can, so I would be giving Jackson some extra weight to hang on to while he completes this exercise to make sure it is super maximal. When you completed that, where did you feel like you were doing the work? So where in the back of the thigh?
There.
Yep. Did you feel like you were getting more load down the bottom or up high?
Mostly through the middle, I'd say.
Through the middle?
Yep.
Okay. So one thing that we do need to keep an eye on with sprinters is they'll often feel like they're doing most of the work in the tendons in the back of the knee, either through the medial aspect or through the lateral aspect. This is a consideration that's important in sprinters because they do get an injury from the way they complete blocks. So as the athletes come out of the blocks, they have to do this scooping action to get ground clearance. As a result, they are a sport and an athlete group that is prone to getting distal tendinopathy, either of the biceps femoris tendon or of the semitendinosus tendon. We do occasionally see with the sprinters that they can't tolerate Nordics due to the amount of load that it places on the tendon. So that is a consideration that for certain athletes, you just don't want to do Nordics, and it's just not going to be an appropriate exercise for those athletes. In terms of the way that we can make this a little bit more effective for our sprinters, we can again apply a band to the exercise to try and change where they feel that load. So in the same way that we completed the bridge slide, we can place a band on the feet. So get Jackson to apply a little bit of tension just to keep his feet apart. And I'll get out of the way. And complete the exercise again. Beautiful. How did that change things?
It was certainly a lot harder.
A lot harder? So that's a little trick that you can apply to a Nordic to try and change the way it feels. I do think they're a useful exercise and I do use them, but there are some potential flaws when you're applying it to a sprinting cohort. All right. So we'll get you to jump up for me now. The final aspect that we like to look at is generating some power type exercises. For sprinters, there's some pretty simple ones. Hang cleans are one of the best, just because they are explosive and most sprinters are quite familiar with them. So Jackson is familiar with a hang clean. Would you want to demonstrate for me? So what we're looking for is the athlete to take up the tension through the hamstring. So they go into this nice hang position and then they're explosively snapping up into the catch position. Athlete should get under the bar nicely, generating a nice explosive movement. I'll get you to do one more. So we're coaching the athlete to take up tension through the hamstrings and snapping up underneath the bar. A really nice exercise as you're coming towards the latter stages of rehab to expose the athlete to the explosive demands of the sport.